In solo leveling, after Hunter Cha expresses her desire to join Jin Woo's guild, she inquires about when they can proceed with the entrance test. Jin casually suggests they do it right away at the association's gymnasium. At that moment, he contemplates testing whether his shadow exchange ability can transport two people at once. As Cha moves to leave the room, Jin Woo stops her, mentioning there's a simpler way to get there, but they'll have to be in close proximity. Without hesitation, the Rizzler wraps an arm around the flustered Hunter and activates shadow exchange. Dark shadows engulf them, pulling them into the ground. Meanwhile, Jin-ho enters the room, only to find himself face-to-face with an orc. Stunned, he watches in disbelief as the creature snatches the dish from his hands and devours the entire meal in a single bite. As the lights flicker on in the gymnasium, Jinwoo and Hunter Cha materialize. Cha is visibly amazed by the teleportation, while Jinwoo confirms his theory. Shadow exchange functions similarly to a gate, with his current location acting as the entry point and his shadow serving as the exit. Though the cooldown period is 3 hours, this ability grants him near-instant travel across the world. Jinwoo announces the start of the test, but Cha suddenly recalls that she forgot her weapon. When Jin teasingly asks if she means her pickaxe, she flushes in embarrassment, remembering that it was the first weapon he ever saw her wield. She quickly clarifies that it isn't her real weapon, and Jin chuckles, saying he was only messing with her. Still blushing, she remarks that there should be a suitable weapon in the storage room. Swiping her card to unlock the door, she inspects the selection and notes that the weapons aren't the best, mainly meant for sparring. Regardless, she retrieves a sword and steps forward, declaring herself ready. Jinwoo asks if she's comfortable using an unfamiliar weapon, pointing out that it's different from her usual sword and may not complement her style. Cha confidently replies that it makes no difference. Monsters don't care about fairness in battle. Jinwoo acknowledges her reasoning, recognizing that if he had summoned an ordinary fighter, they wouldn't last more than a few seconds. To assess her abilities, Jinwoo summons Igris, proclaiming him the most skilled swordsman among his shadows. Cha then asks about the rules, and Jinwoo explains that the match will continue until she either defeats his summon or surrenders. Though he initially considered using his strongest shadow, he decides that putting her against Beru would be unnecessarily brutal. As Cha readies herself for battle, Jinwoo suddenly remembers her statement about weapons not being important. Amused, he asks her to turn around while he consults with a confused Igris. Taking advantage of the moment, he bestows Igris with the S-rank Demon King's longsword. Smirking, he declares, "All right, let's begin." Igris advances toward Mami Cha and slashes, unleashing a storm of white lightning at the Hunter. However, she effortlessly evades the attack. Jinwoo observes her agility, noting that an ordinary person would have perished even if they were barely grazed by it. Mami Cha crosses blades with Igris, and at that moment, Chairman Go notices the gymnasium lights are on. "There aren't supposed to be any reservations today," he mutters. He calls his assistant and asks if they can redirect the gym's camera feed to his office. As he watches the footage of Jinwoo and Mami Cha entering the gym, he wonders, when did those two get acquainted? Memories of the Jeju raid surface. He recalls how Mami Cha had woken up, blushing and asking about Jinwoo. Realizing what's unfolding, he instructs his assistant to disable all the gym cameras and log that an inspection was scheduled for today. With a knowing smile, he muses, "Ah, youth." Back in the gym, Jinwoo is taken aback. As Igris falls, Mami Cha asks, "Was the Black Knight truly your strongest summon? Didn't you claim you'd bring out your most powerful one? Then show him to me." Jinwoo eyes her with concern and cautions, "You could get hurt." Mami Cha responds firmly, "I don't care. I've been wanting a rematch anyway." Surprised, Jinwoo raises an eyebrow. "You knew?" Mami Cha nods. "I saw him firsthand, and in the recordings." At that moment, Jinwoo summons Beru. As his towering shadow rises, Mami Cha's nerves start to build. Jinwoo asks once more, "Are you sure about this?" After Jinwoo summons Beru, we learn that shadow soldiers are not as strong as they were in life. However, Beru was designed specifically as a weapon to eliminate hunters. As the fight begins, Mami Cha's chances don't look promising. Beru turns to Jinwoo and asks what he should do with Mami Cha. Jin instructs him to defeat her. without causing any harm. In response, Beru unleashes a deafening screech, instantly shattering every window in the gym. Nervously, Mommy Cha wonders, how did Jin even manage to fight this thing? Beru extends his claws, preparing to strike, but Jin immediately intervenes. Put those away. If you hurt her, I won't forgive you. Obediently, Beru retracts his claws, momentarily turning his gaze to Jin. Seizing the moment, Mommy Cha lunges forward, but before she can react, Beru appears behind her in an instant, moving so fast it's as if he teleported. She spins around, slashing her sword. Do you really think I'll fall for the same move twice? She challenges. However, Beru casually catches her blade, flicking it aside with ease. His thoughts are clear. I have one mission: defeat the opponent without injuring her. Understanding that he must crush her fighting spirit by showcasing the overwhelming gap in their strength, Beru readies himself for an undeniable display of dominance. Mommy Cha thrusts her sword toward him, but he dodges effortlessly. She tries again, another miss. Not yet, she tells herself, slashing at him with precision. Yet to her shock, Beru simply leans back, dodging as if playing a game, never once shifting his feet. A wave of disbelief washes over Mommy Cha. He's evaded every attack without even moving. Then, suddenly, Beru closes the distance between them, roaring directly in her face. The sheer force of his magical pressure alone is enough to send her stumbling backward. Jin Wu watches closely and remarks, "Looks like this fight is already over. Are you satisfied now?" But Mommy Cha, unwavering, responds, "I can still keep going." Jin Wu frowns, confused. Why is she pushing herself so hard? I thought she'd surrender after realizing the power gap. Unlike other shadow soldiers, Beru retains both intelligence and his lethal instincts. He is, at his core, a ruthless killing machine. If she's aiming for something here, I hope it's not a fatal mistake. A flicker of frustration flashes in Beru's eyes. Normally, a single glance is enough for any living creature to recognize whether they are predator or prey, yet Mommy Cha refuses to submit. Enraged, Beru lunges at her, swiping his claws. She barely dodges in time, sliding out of harm's way as his claws carve deep gashes into the wall behind her. Determined, Mommy Cha activates her skill, Sword Dance, and the battle continues. This arc is far from over. In solo leveling, after Mommy Cha narrowly avoids Beru's claws, she swiftly activates her skill, Sword Dance, and lunges at the ant, slashing with her sword. However, Beru effortlessly catches the blade and crushes it in his grip. At that moment, Mommy Cha realizes this is her one and only opportunity. She knows she doesn't have enough mana to use the skill more than once, but once is all she needs. With unwavering determination, she activates Blade of Light and thrusts the remnants of her sword toward the shadow soldier. Just as her attack lands, something feels off. Jinwoo suddenly shouts, "No!" But it's already too late. In that instant, a deeply ingrained command resurfaces in Beru's mind, an order imprinted upon him by the Ant Queen at birth. Like an instinctual reflex, he cannot disobey it. Eliminate the enemy. Without hesitation, Beru prepares to strike Mommy Cha down, his razor-sharp claws descending upon her. Jin Wu yells for him to stop, but the attack is already in motion. Then, crash! Jin Wu intercepts Beru's strike just in time, gripping his claw with overwhelming force. The impact leaves Mommy Cha stunned as she watches him restrain Beru, stepping on one hand while seizing the other. His voice is sharp and commanding. "I told you to stop!" At once, Beru recoils, backing away in submission. Jinwoo then turns to Mommy Cha, asking if she's all right. Realizing his mistake, Beru lowers his head, pleading for forgiveness, while Jinwoo exhales in disappointment. Turning back to Mommy Cha, Jinwoo questions why she's pushing herself so hard just to join his guild. She avoids his gaze as he reminds her that this is merely an entrance test for a nameless guild, nothing worth risking her life over. "Why go to such lengths?" he presses. Mommy Cha remains silent, staring at the floor. Sensing her hesitation, Jin Wu probes further, wondering if she's just going to sit there quietly again. Then, a thought strikes him. Could it be? He hesitates before voicing it. Perhaps, "You're interested in me?" For a moment, Mommy Cha sits frozen, processing his words. Jin Wu, realizing what he just said, fumbles to make sense of it himself. But before he can take it back, Mommy Cha simply answers, Yes, I think so. And with that, this pivotal moment in their journey unfolds further. At the United States Hunter Bureau, Michael Connor and Norma Selner lower their heads, offering their apologies to director David Brennan for failing to sway Sung Jin Woo. However, Brennan dismisses their apologies, stating that he didn't summon them for that. He wants a full report on what transpired. Michael explains that based on Selner's assessment, Sung Jin Woo is a king. This revelation catches the director off guard, prompting him to ask if that means Jin Wu possesses strength equivalent to a national-level hunter. Selner elaborates, explaining that awakened individuals derive their power from the other side, and she has the unique ability to sense this connection. Occasionally, the energy from the other side is so overwhelming that an awakened individual appears cloaked in a radiant light. Such individuals are what she refers to as kings. However, Jinwoo is unlike any she has encountered. When she looked into his eyes, she saw no such connection. Instead, what gazed back at her was not merely veiled in darkness, it was darkness itself. David, visibly unsettled, asks if she is implying that Jinwoo is malevolent. Selner quickly clarifies that she is not making a judgment on his character, only explaining the nature of his abilities. Unlike other awakened beings who channel their strength from the other side, Jinwoo's power is entirely self-contained. Because of this, he has no restrictions. Michael reinforces this point, emphasizing that there are no limits to Jinwoo's strength. Selner nods in agreement, confirming that his potential is boundless. At that moment, the director rises from his chair, thanking Lady Selner for her insights. Michael, puzzled, asks where he is going. "Floor B24, David replies, instructing the deputy director to accompany him. Inside the elevator, David discusses their next move. Since they cannot use Norma Selner's abilities to bring Jin Wu to their side, they must find an alternative way to gain his cooperation. He then asks Michael if he recalls the first S-rank gate incident. Michael immediately acknowledges it, the catastrophic dungeon break that wreaked havoc across the western United States. David recounts how the U.S. government assembled the world's most elite hunters with the promise of an enormous reward, yet only 5 emerged alive. These 5 were granted authority on par with that of an entire nation, he continues, mentioning the terrifying entity responsible for the destruction. The inextinguishable flame, the dragon Kamish, a single creature that slaughtered countless top-tier hunters. Then, David poses an intriguing question. Would you believe that such a calamity left behind a gift? As they arrive at their destination, David enters a code. The heavy doors slide open with a mechanical hiss, revealing the object within. "Look," he announces. Before them lies a rune stone, extracted from Kamish's remains and safeguarded in this facility for 8 years since the Kamish raid. Because none of the national-level hunters were mages, the rune stone has remained untouched, waiting for the one worthy of wielding it. The director then declares with certainty, Kamish will once again bestow a priceless gift upon this nation. Jinwoo watches footage of a massive A-rank gate that has emerged while Park Jong-soo explains that the size of a gate and its rank don't always correspond. However, this particular gate is releasing an overwhelming amount of mana. Jinwoo asks if it has been classified as an S-rank, but Jong-soo clarifies that it just barely falls within the upper limits of an A-rank gate. He also notes that it's the largest gate ever recorded in Busan. For a brief moment, Jinwoo thinks about meeting up with Lee Joo-hee in Busan for some sushi, while Jong-soo continues explaining the situation. The association is hesitant to grant the Knights Guild access due to their lack of an S-rank hunter. However, if Jinwoo joins their raid team, they will have the necessary approval to proceed. Jong-soo assures Jinwoo that he will be well compensated for his participation. Typically, S-rank hunters receive about 10% of a raid's total profits, but for this dungeon, he is offering Jinwoo 20%. "Let's go 50-50, Jinwoo replies. Jong-soo is momentarily taken aback. Jinwoo clarifies that he isn't acting as a solo hunter, he represents a guild. He then reveals that they have just founded the Ajin guild. Jong-soo attempts to negotiate a 60-40 split, but Jinwoo immediately rejects it. Internally, Jong-soo notes how young Jinwoo appears, yet how composed and assertive he is. Definitely not an ordinary individual. "All right then," Jong-soo concedes. "Would you be responsible for handling the boss-level monsters?" Jinwoo agrees, and the Knights Guild Master informs him that since the gate has been present for nearly a week, they will begin the raid the next day. He offers Jinwoo a ride, but Jinwoo declines, stating that he has matters to attend to that evening. As he walks away, he reassures them, "Regardless, I won't be late." Yutae suddenly notices something unusual and asks if Jong-soo just saw Jinwoo's shadow move. At that moment, Jinwoo's phone rings, an anonymous number. Excusing himself, he answers the call. To his surprise, it's his mother, who has just bought a cell phone. She tells him that she simply wanted to hear his voice and apologizes if she's interrupting anything. "Not at all," Jinwoo responds warmly before inviting her to dinner that night. She happily agrees. In Busan, the Knights Guild hunters stand around, waiting for the raid to begin. Jong-soo, growing slightly impatient, mutters that they should have insisted Jinwoo come with them the previous day. He worries that Jinwoo might be running late, as they are scheduled to start in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Jinwoo looks up at the gloomy weather, wondering if his sister Jin-ah remembered to bring her umbrella. Without hesitation, he activates Shadow Exchange. Elsewhere, at a high school, 3 students walk through the halls, grumbling about their art teacher sending them to retrieve supplies. "How many plaster figures do we need to carry?" one of them asks. "There are 6 groups, so probably 6, another replies. "Even if we each take one, we'll have to come back for a second trip." One of the boys complains about the dust, wondering when the last time this storage room was used. His friend speculates that it hasn't been touched all semester. Then, something catches one of the students' eyes. His face goes pale as he notices a gate at the back of the room. He nervously points it out to his classmates. One of them walks closer, unfazed. "What are you so scared of? If it's closed, it's completely safe. Only hunters can go inside, and nothing from within can come out." It takes about a week for a gate to fully open. The nervous student hesitates. "Didn't you say this room has been abandoned all semester, and we're only just now noticing this?" Before they can process the situation, the gate suddenly cracks. A grotesque green hand shoots out, grabbing one of the students by the head and lifting him into the air. The boy flails, screaming for help, but the grip on his skull tightens. His friends freeze in horror as their classmate is crushed like an insect. The student they were just casually talking to is dead. Then, more monsters begin to emerge from the gate. Blood splatters across the walls. Moments later, all 3 students are dead. Orcs emerge from the gate, revealing themselves as naturally skilled hunters. While they lack intelligence, their tracking and hunting abilities far surpass those of humans. The scent of flesh and blood excites them, but as scouts, they restrain their instincts and focus on their mission. For an entire week, they remain concealed in the shadows, their senses sharp even before locating their prey. One orc surveys the intricate surroundings, likening them to a castle, and declares the start of the hunt. Ordering a companion to summon their kin, the orc bursts through a doorway, announcing their intent to slaughter all the humans in the area and secure their position before the true hunt begins. "First, we'll completely purge this place," he proclaims, his gaze locking onto the students in the hall. A boy hands a girl a drink, but their brief moment of peace is shattered by a sudden thud. Turning their heads, they spot a green-skinned monster brandishing an axe, hurtling toward them. Meanwhile, at the gate, Jin remarks on how much larger it appears in person. He takes note of the different teams present: the collection team, the mining team, and the formidable assault team, which consists of 13 A-rank hunters and 20 B-ranks. As he moves through the crowd, he is struck by the sheer number of A-rank hunters gathered. A hesitant voice speaks up, and suddenly, hunters surround Jin with questions. A woman suggests that Jin will be leading the raid today, stirring excitement and tension. Jung Yarim quickly steps in, questioning why they're putting Sung Jin-woo on the spot. Introducing herself as the primary healer of the Knights Guild assault team, she stresses the importance of coordination between the raid leader and the main healer. Jin turns to Park Jong-soo, asking why he hasn't clarified things yet. Jong-soo casually responds that he'll do it now and proceeds to announce that he will be leading the raid. The other hunters look visibly disappointed, but the guild master assigns Jin to the rear to ensure the group's safety. One hunter, feeling slighted, questions whether they are so weak that they require additional protection. He wonders if the elite members of the Knights Guild truly appear that fragile in Jin's eyes. Park Jong-soo chuckles, remarking on his team's boldness, admitting that while their behavior might come off as impolite, this kind of dynamic is normal for them. Jin, unbothered, simply notes that it means they're confident. As Jong-soo checks his phone, he signals that it's time to move out, and the raid officially commences. Meanwhile, at the Hunters Association Emergency Call Center, a woman picks up an urgent call. A student frantically dials the Hunters Association Emergency Hotline, her voice quivering as she reports that monsters have appeared outside her school. The worker on the other end asks, "Where are you calling from?" The girl, drenched in blood and shaking uncontrollably, whispers, "I'm hiding in the bathroom." Tears streak down her face as she sobs, "I was with my friend. But my friend..." The worker urgently presses for more details. "How many monsters are there? Are they close by?" The girl, barely able to speak, stammers, I don't know. I hear too many screams." Her voice wavers as she pleads, "Am I going to die?" The worker attempts to reassure her. "Hunters are on their way as we speak. They would never abandon you students, so you need to stay calm until help arrives. Do you understand?" More terrified screams ring out in the background as the girl hesitantly asks, "Really? Am I going to survive?" Desperate for more information, the worker inquires, "Do you know what kind of monsters they are?" The girl hesitates before answering, Yes. I saw them on TV, but..." She struggles to put her thoughts into words. The worker urges, "Describe them. What do they look like?" The girl stammers. "Their bodies are shaped like humans, but their faces are hideous. They're green. Their skin is green." The worker's expression turns grim. "Are they orcs?" she asks. A wave of dread washes over the girl as she gasps, "Yes, that's it! Orcs!" At that instant, an orc arrives outside the bathroom. The worker's voice rises in panic. "Get out of there now! Orcs can smell!" The girl's phone slips from her grasp, hitting the floor with a hollow thud. A blood-curdling scream echoes through the receiver. "I don't want to die." Her desperate cries fill the line before they are suddenly cut off, leaving the worker frozen in horror, forced to listen to the girl's final moments. Chaos erupts as students scream and flee, the walls painted with fresh blood. Outside, they bolt off the school grounds. A girl wails that her friends are still trapped inside, but a boy pulls her away, urging, "The hunters will handle it." Inside, the orcs stand amid the carnage, their blood-drenched battle axes dripping onto the floor. One orc clicks his tongue in irritation. "We lost half of our prey," he grumbles. Another orc reassures him, "There are still plenty left. We sealed off their escape routes." His eyes glint with malice as he commands, "Head to the next floor and slaughter them all." Upstairs, students huddle inside a barricaded classroom. Two boys stand at the front, gripping makeshift weapons, their hands trembling. Suddenly, the barricade crashes down, and the students cry out in terror as a hulking, blood-soaked orc steps forward. Panic sets in. A student desperately bolts toward the barricade on the opposite end of the room, only to be ambushed. An orc lying in wait swings its massive axe, cutting him down in a single slash. More orcs flood inside, their eyes burning with bloodlust. One of the orcs, a hulking brute named Baldy, turns to his leader. "There is a human here with magic energy," he growls. The boss smirks in satisfaction. "Kill that one first." At the back of the classroom, Gina and her friends stand frozen with fear. Gina clutches her hands together, silently praying for her brother to come to their rescue. Jin-ah screams, "You can't!" as she desperately pulls her friend back. However, Han Song-yi stands firm, bravely reassuring Jin-ah. "I'm awakened too, even though I'm only an E rank." Just then an orc eyes them and asks, "Is it that human?" Another orc replies, "No!" before noting an even greater magical energy nearby. His gaze shifts toward Jin-ah. "It's that woman! Die!" the orc roars, swinging his weapon at the girls. Terrified, they shut their eyes, bracing for the worst, when suddenly, from Jin-ah's own shadow, a figure rises. One of Daddy Wu's shadow soldiers, the mighty gorilla, emerges. Jin-ah, gripping the shadow's arm with teary eyes, asks, "Is Daddy home?" The shadow soldier, with eyes positioned eerily on the back of his head, clenches a fist before launching a brutal uppercut. The orc is sent rocketing through the school's ceiling. The remaining orc freezes in shock as three high orc shadows step forward, standing guard in front of Jin-ah. Meanwhile, deep within the dungeon, Jong-soo shouts as a twin-headed ogre stomps around the corner. The monstrous creature lets out a bone-chilling roar, swinging its enormous axe. Reacting instantly, Jong-soo activates his ability, clashing his forearms together to conjure a shield. The ogre's blade scrapes the ground before crashing into his defense. While holding the beast at bay, Jong-soo signals to Yun-tae, who swiftly scales the weapon and slashes at the ogre's eyes. "Now!" he calls, cueing Nuna and Hyung to land the finishing blow. The pair charge forward, severing the beast's arms, before two mages step in, electrocuting and incinerating it, completely roasting the monster. As the twin-headed ogre collapses, Jong-soo orders everyone to regroup. As expected, this raid won't be simple, Jong-soo states, a twin-headed ogre right at the entrance. He then turns to Jin Wu. "Do you know what they're called?" Jin Wu doesn't hesitate. "Gravekeepers." "Exactly." Jong-soo nods. "If it was just the boss, it wouldn't be an issue. But if they're appearing at the entrance, that means this dungeon will be filled with the undead." "Perfect," Yun-tae groans. "Jong totally jinxed it. Should we keep moving forward?" However, something feels off. The undead ahead of them aren't attacking. They're just standing there. The hunters exchange uneasy glances. They usually attack on sight. "Does it seem like they're being pursued by something?" someone asks. Jin Wu, watching the scene with growing impatience, had expected this A-rank dungeon to be a challenge. But then, a strange sensation washes over him. His expression darkens. This feeling... No way. A strange sensation washes over Jin Wu. His expression darkens as he feels something scary. Without another word, he turns to the guildmaster. "I have to leave. Something urgent just came up." Park Jong-soo looks alarmed. "Wait, what? If you leave, it could put us in danger." Jin Wu remains calm. "I'll call someone you can trust just as much as me. They'll handle things from here." The hunters stand in disbelief as a figure materializes before them. An ant. But not just any ant. One of the Jeju Island ants. "Wait, is that..." Jin Wu smirks. "Since you recognize him, no explanation is needed." He turns to the ant. "You'll take my place. Protect the humans." Beru's eyes gleam with anticipation. "And what of the non-humans, my king?" Jin Wu gives a simple, chilling response. "Do as you please." With that, Beru unleashes a piercing screech, sending shivers down the spines of the hunters. They exchange uneasy glances, questioning how they're supposed to complete the raid with such a terrifying creature among them. Before they can fully process the situation, Jin casually summons 20 more ant soldiers to assist before turning to leave. However, Jong-soo and Yerim quickly step in, blocking his exit. "Are you seriously just walking away after unleashing those things?" Annoyed, Jin glances over his shoulder. "I can recall them before I go if that's what you want," he says flatly. "But honestly, you're safer with them around." Jong-soo shudders, but reluctantly nods. "Yeah, that's probably true." Jin Wu quickly checks his shadow exchange cooldown, only to see that it still has an hour and 40 minutes left. Frustration flashes across his face. Damn it. "Why now of all times?" he mutters, before taking off at full speed. Jong-soo watches him disappear, his expression a mix of irritation and unease. Yun-tae glances at him. "So, what's the plan now?" Jong-soo sighs, rubbing his temples. "Give me a second to think." As Jin speeds through the dungeon's corridors, his concern grows. His soldiers near Jin-ah keep sending him urgent signals, making his unease spike. His jaw tightens. Suddenly, a horde of undead steps into his path, forming a barrier between him and his sister. His grip tightens around his daggers as he grits his teeth. "Get out of my way!" he snarls, ready to carve through them. But just before he attacks, the undead unexpectedly drop to their knees before him. Jin halts, eyes narrowing in confusion. What the hell? After a brief moment of thought, he assumes it must be because he's a superior necromancer compared to whoever is controlling them. Deciding not to waste any more time, he leaps into the air and summons Kaisel. The massive shadow wyvern materializes beneath him, letting out a powerful roar. Outside, civilians gaze in astonishment as Jin's wyvern soars through the sky at an incredible speed. His eyes burn with determination. "To my sister." Full speed, he commands. The shadow-high orcs, ruthlessly cleave a green orc in twain, sending shockwaves of fear through the students. Meanwhile, one of Gina's shadow guardians, a towering gorilla-like beast, grabs two green orcs by the skull and slams them into the ground simultaneously. As the orcs lay there, shattered and mangled, the students remain frozen in stunned silence, struggling to grasp that these fearsome beings had just come to their rescue. "They're protecting us?" a student asks in disbelief. Jin-ah, locking eyes with the orc shadow soldier, wonders if it belongs to Daddy Wu. Hesitantly, she calls out for him while stepping forward. However, before she can get too close, the shadow soldier raises a hand to stop her, then gestures ahead, warning of the incoming horde of orcs. The gate finally crumbles, its last barriers obliterated, as Groktar, chief of the Red Blade tribe, strides forth with a chilling proclamation. Nothing will stand in his way now. One of his tribesmen informs him that 3 high orc warriors have sided with the humans, enraged at the very suggestion that his forces would struggle against mere high orcs. He sneers. Pathetic. Tightening his grip on his blade, he bellows, "Lead the way! Let the slaughter begin!" Meanwhile, deep within the dungeon, tension thickens as ants skitter across the walls, heightening the hunter's unease. Yuntai urges Jong-soo to call off the operation, but Jong-soo refuses. There's no turning back now, not with the press swarming outside. "Yeah, we can't back down just because of some summons. Keep moving," he commands, forcing steel into his voice. Without warning, Beru materializes before the guild, his suffocating presence sending chills down their spines. Jong-soo asks, "Shall we proceed?" Before anyone can react, Beru vanishes in an instant. Jong barely has time to process what happened before the ant reappears directly before him, making him collapse in sheer terror. Beru then tosses something at Jong-soo's feet before turning away and departing with the other ants. The guild members rush to Jong-soo's side, ensuring he's unharmed, but their attention quickly shifts when they realize what Beru left behind. The severed head of a death knight, one of the dungeon's deadliest monsters, slain in the blink of an eye. "To think they're this strong," Jong-soo mutters, shaken. He then comments on the immense value of magic cores from high-ranked dungeons and challenges the others, questioning if they still wish to retreat. But before he can say another word, his attack force is already surging forward without him. "Boss, how long are you going to stand there?" Yuntai calls out. The high orc shadow soldier gets his arm sliced clean off, forcing him to drop to one knee. The Red Blade warriors erupt in chants of Groktar's name as he steps forward, eyes gleaming with battle lust. For orcs, tattoos mark victories won and enemies slain. "You must have taken down a fair number," he says, eyeing the high orc's inked skin. "But is that really all?" A cruel smirk spreads across his face. "Come on, keep me entertained." With a feral roar, he swings his blade at the kneeling shadow soldier. But before the strike can land, another shadow steps in, stopping it cold. The force of the impact rattles Groktaru's arm, making his hand tremble. He grins, impressed. "Not bad," he admits, "but it won't be enough." He swings again, cleaving the orc shadow straight in half. Yet to his growing frustration, the creature doesn't fall. The wound closes in an instant, as if nothing happened. Groktaru's confidence falters. What the hell is this? No matter how many times he cuts them down, they just keep coming back. His grip tightens on his weapon as something in his mind begins to unravel. He could kill them 100 times, 1,000 times, but it wouldn't matter. Kill, 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 kill every last human. His head pounds. A splitting pain tears through his skull. He grits his teeth, his breath's ragged. It's getting worse. He has to finish this before he loses control. If they're moving because of magic, I just need to take out the one controlling them. His eyes lock onto Jin-ah. "You! The girl!" he roars, pointing straight at her. "Grab her!" His warriors move instantly. High orcs are vulnerable while they regenerate. "Keep attacking! Don't give them a chance to move!" The orcs swarm the shadows, cutting one down and driving their weapons into the next. "Jin-ah, get back!" one of the students shouts. But before she can react, Groktaru is already on her. He lunges, seizing Jin-ah by the face and lifting her off the ground like she weighs nothing. His fingers tighten around her skull as he feels the magic radiating from her. His suspicions are confirmed. His grip tightens. Die. Then he feels it. A presence. Vast, suffocating, terrifying, closing in fast. His entire body locks up. A shudder rolls down his spine. His instincts scream at him to move, to run, to survive. Without realizing it, his fingers loosen. Jin-ah slips from his grasp, hitting the ground with a soft thud. Song Yi rushes to her side. "Jin-ah, are you okay?" But no one is looking at them anymore. The battlefield erupts. A shockwave rips through the air as a massive force crashes down, sending orcs flying like rag dolls. Gurok Taru barely dodges in time, staggering back. Jin-ah coughs, struggling to sit up. Jin Wu kneels beside her, resting a hand on her head. His voice is calm, steady. "You're safe now." As the dust settles, Gurok Taru stares, his face drained of color. Behind him, the ruins of a collapsed building give way, revealing Kaisel, and atop the beast, cloaked in an aura of sheer dominance, stands Jin Wu. Jin Wu doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't need to. The weight of his presence alone crushes the battlefield. Groktar stammers, trying to introduce himself, to salvage some kind of authority in the face of this monster. But Jin Wu doesn't even let him finish. He raises a single finger. "Shut up and wait. This fight isn't over." He embraces his sister, reassuring her that everything is fine and apologizing for arriving late. He then turns to the students, asking if they are unharmed, to which they confirm they are. Checking on Song Yi, she assures him she's all right, but mentions that his presence feels incredibly intimidating. As Jin Woo's gaze shifts to Gina's bruised face, his fury builds. He instructs Igris to look after her and commands his other shadow soldiers to escort the students downstairs first. In that tense moment, an orc trembles in place. "I said don't move," Jin Wu warns, one at a time. The students carefully settle down on Kaisel's back, while Groktar, the orc chief, realizes the undead warriors belong to Jin Wu. He demands to know who Jin Wu is and how he can speak their language, but the hunter remains silent, unfazed. Seeing that Jin Wu refuses to answer, the chieftain gives the order to attack. 3 orcs charge at him. The first swings its weapon, but Jin Wu effortlessly catches its fingers and crushes them, eliciting a scream of agony. Still gripping the severed fingers, he swings the orc around and slams it into the ground before driving his knee into its skull, crushing it completely. 2 more orcs rush in at the same time, but with Dominator's touch, Jin Wu smashes their backs together. His face remains expressionless as he tightens his grip, causing their bodies to implode against one another. The rest of the Red Blade tribe roars and lunges at him, but Jin Wu moves in a blur, tearing through them with his bare hands, ripping away chunks of their flesh. As their lifeless bodies fall and he closes in on the chieftain, the orc warrior stares in disbelief, struggling to comprehend what he just witnessed. Without hesitation, Jin Wu seizes the chieftain's face using Dominator's touch and slams it against the wall. His gaze shifts to the left and right, and his eyes land on the bodies of dead children littering the hallway. "Why?" he demands, his voice heavy with restrained rage. He questions why orcs harbor such an extreme desire to slaughter humans. Despite its crushed face, the orc manages to respond, "In our heads, constantly kill the humans." Jin Wu narrows his eyes. "Do you hear that voice when you think about me?" he asks. The orc, however, only whimpers and begs for mercy. Jin Wu tightens his grip, pressing for an answer, but the orc continues pleading, tears streaming from its eyes. "I see," Jin Wu mutters, realization dawning on him. Even in their twisted perception, they don't see him as human. Well, it doesn't really matter. "I'll forgive you," he says, "but don't expect it to be painless." Back in the dungeon, Yerem tugs at a piece of fabric, exclaiming, "Do you have any idea how expensive that is?" She scolds the ant, warning that vampires are highly valuable and not meant for consumption. However, the ant disregards her words, slashing her shoulder and knocking her to the ground before devouring the rest of the vampire right before her eyes. At that moment, Beru suddenly appears, startling the soldier ant. He raises his arm above the injured hunter, shocking her as a warm glow envelops her wound, his healing magic surpassing anything she has seen before. As the ants retreat, Yerem watches in disbelief, wondering how a summon could possess healing abilities stronger than her own. They soon reach the boss chamber, where the Archlich hovers ominously above its Death Knight guards. A wave of fear washes over the hunters. Among dungeon bosses, the Archlich is infamous. It was responsible for the complete annihilation of the Golden Dragon Guild, one of China's strongest, resulting in a devastating dungeon break. If not for Liu Zhigang's intervention, the disaster could have escalated even further. Given its power, defeating the boss is an impossible task for any ordinary A-rank hunter. Yun Tae, panic evident in his voice, asks what they should do. Before anyone can respond, a hunter suddenly shouts. A new threat approaches. The undead creatures that were left uneaten by the ants have risen once more. Yong-su instantly commands Yerem to seal the entrance. She activates her Holy Wall ability, erecting a glowing barrier. Jiangsu grimly assesses the situation, now fully understanding why this is considered an A-rank dungeon of the highest difficulty. Guildmaster, I can't hold this for more than 5 minutes, Yerem warns, struggling to maintain the barrier. Damn it! Yong curses. A high-pitched screech echoes through the chamber, drawing his attention to Beru. The Arch-Lich suddenly recognizes them, the Shadow Army. Staring at them in shock, it demands to know why the Shadow Monarch's personal forces are attacking. Beru remains calm, stating that they have been chosen by the Monarch while the Arch-Lich has not. Refusing to accept this, the Arch-Lich declares that it will report directly to the Monarch. But before it can act, Beru materializes in front of it in an instant, shoving his arm straight through its chest. You talk too much. For someone who's about to die, he remarks coldly. This isn't over. Beru drives his arm straight into the Arch-Lich's chest, sending the towering monster crashing to the ground. Without hesitation, he rips the glowing orb from its body and crushes it in his claws. In an instant, the Arch-Lich dissolves into mist, and with it, every undead under its control vanishes. Their soulless bodies drop where they stand, lifeless. The hunters watching are stunned. How could the Arch-Lich be obliterated in a single move? A deafening screech erupts from Beru, his monstrous cry shaking the air. Jiangsu, still processing what just happened, mutters that he knew the creature was strong, but this is on a whole different level. Yun Tae, equally shocked, points out that if Jinwoo's summons are this powerful, he doesn't even need to step foot in dungeons anymore. His army alone could clear them with ease. Meanwhile, Jiangsu watches closely, analyzing the situation. Controlling this many summons must take an insane amount of magical energy. Jinwoo likely can't sustain them all at once, but even if he could only summon half of what they've seen here, he'd still be stronger than any major guild in South Korea. Realizing the sheer scale of Jinwoo's power, Yun Tae suggests they merge their guild with his. But Jiangsu quickly corrects him. It wouldn't be a merger, it would be an alliance. The idea of Jinwoo's newly established guild partnering with one of the country's top 5 guilds is tempting. Still, Yun Tae questions whether they should even consider it. Jinwoo clearly doesn't need their help. Jiangsu, however, reminds them that no matter how powerful Jinwoo is, guild regulations still apply to him. Yun Tae challenges this, prompting Jiangsu to explain further. Even if Jinwoo's summons can wipe out dungeons on their own, guild law requires a minimum number of hunters for a raid team. The swordsman nods, understanding their potential role, supporting Jinwoo while his summons handle the real battle. But wouldn't that just make them dead weight? Freeloaders? Jiangsu shakes his head. No, they wouldn't just be tagging along, they'd still be offering crucial assistance. Association members block off the area while EMTs rush to respond. A frantic woman pushes through the crowd, her voice filled with desperation. Her son goes to this school. She shoves past onlookers, needing to see for herself. The moment her eyes land on her child's lifeless body, she collapses, wailing in anguish. The air is thick with grief. Someone asks if there are any survivors, but a hunter inside the school grimly confirms there are none. Meanwhile, inside a sleek black car, Chairman Go Gun-hee discusses the tragedy. He reports that out of the 213 students who managed to escape at the start, all are safe. But only 10 more were rescued afterward. The rest, the ones who couldn't make it out in time, are gone. With a heavy sigh, he hands his phone to Jin Wu, stating that this catastrophe could have been predicted and prevented. The screen displays troubling data, a massive spike in gate activity in Seoul over the last 6 months, along with global statistics showing a sharp increase in gate appearances worldwide. Go Gun-hee explains that gates are appearing at an alarming rate all across the world. But strangely, at the same time, more people are awakening and seeking to verify their ranks. As stronger monsters pour out of these portals, more hunters are rising to meet them, almost as if some unseen force is keeping the world in balance. Jinwoo listens in silence, his instincts telling him that something bigger is at play. Switching gears, Jinwoo asks what the chairman really wanted to talk about. Go Gun-hee hands him a thick folder filled with official documents. Every major country is trying to establish contact with Hunter Sung Jinwoo. He's certain some have already reached out through back channels. The chairman clarifies that while the association has no authority to block these foreign interests, they can at least protect Jinwoo's personal information if he wishes. But there's a bigger problem. If Jinwoo leaves, South Korea may not be able to handle what's coming. Their car pulls up to the hospital where Jinwoo's sister is recovering. As Jinwoo steps out, Go Gun-hee calls out to him one last time. With a serious expression, he tells Jinwoo that the association is willing to offer him anything, as long as he stays in South Korea. He lays out the harsh reality. The country originally had 10 S-rank hunters, including Jinwoo. But 3 are already gone. 2 were killed in the Jeju Island raid, and 1 abandoned Korea for the United States. With numbers dwindling, the association can't afford to sit back and let things unfold on their own. Jinwoo listens, then finally speaks. If that's the case, would you let me enter high-ranking gates alone from now on? Go Gun-hee stiffens. He realizes what Jinwoo is asking, to be exempt from the minimum raid party requirement. When Jinwoo confirms it, the chairman hesitates before explaining that the rule exists for a reason. It's the only safety net keeping hunters from recklessly entering dungeons unprepared and dying. Are you seriously asking me to remove it? Just for you? Then, suddenly it clicks. Go Gun-hee's eyes widen as he puts the pieces together. Wait, is that why you started your own guild? Jinwoo nods, confirming his suspicion. Then, with an unwavering gaze, he asks if his request is impossible. Go Gun-hee considers it for a moment. A one-man raid team, he thinks. After a beat, he exhales. It's not impossible. Just leave it to me. The woman's phone rings just as the director praises her for a job well done. On the other end, Jin-ho excitedly calls his Nuna and hits her with a question out of nowhere. Does she want to join his guild? He explains that instead of being stuck playing PR manager for their father's guild, she could just put her name on his guild's employee list and do whatever she wants. The baddie Nuna raises an eyebrow, caught off guard. She asks why he's bringing this up so suddenly, and if he even knows that Jin-hee is back in town. Jin-ho brushes it off, saying, "Of course I know about my sister's work before dropping another bomb. His guild is still 1 founding member short." She scoffs, questioning if he's seriously asking her to join a guild that doesn't even officially exist yet, and wonders if he's getting scammed by some shady guy. Jin-ho just laughs. If you knew who the shady guy was, you'd be shocked. "Oh yeah? Who is it?" she asks. Cut to the Ajin guild office. Jinwoo looks up and asks if this is the third person Jin-ho was talking about. Jin-ho grins and introduces his cousin, Soo-hyun, a full-time baddie and part-time A-rank hunter. The moment she lays eyes on Jin-woo, her jaw nearly drops. The Sung Jin-woo? No way. Jin-ho, amused, asks what the big deal is. She's the one who's basically a celebrity. Meanwhile, Jin-woo sizes her up, wondering if she's really A-rank. Soo-hyun, still in shock, doesn't even answer properly. Instead, she smirks and says she finally gets to meet the hunter who crashed Lee Min-song's press interview and disappeared like a ghost. Jin-ho sighs, rubbing his temples. Are you seriously fangirling over the wrong thing right now? Drippy Woo leans back in his chair, deep in thought. His vice guildmaster is a D rank, but his cousin is an A rank. Is there some kind of genetic factor to awakening? He knows siblings sometimes awaken together, and his father was a hunter too. After a pause, he asks Jin-ho if he gave her the full rundown. Soo-hyun shrugs. All he said was that you're missing a founding member. Jin-woo nods but warns her that if she joins, the media is going to have a field day. You cool with that? She doesn't even hesitate. Still better than getting mixed up with Yoo Jin-song. That catches Jin-woo's attention. He glances at Jin-ho, who sighs and clarifies. That's my brother. Jin-woo raises an eyebrow. You mean the one with the trash personality? Yeah, he already seems pretty famous. Before things can get any deeper, Soo Hyun suddenly lights up. "Hey, can we take a selfie?" She pulls out her phone, grinning. "This is totally going on my SNS profile." A man scoffs. "Do you even hear yourself right now?" He leans forward, voice dripping with frustration. "Counting summons as actual raid members? Are you kidding me?" He shakes his head, pointing out that Jinwoo's guild was barely formed. Yet somehow this ridiculous new rule is already in place. His eyes scan the room as he demands answers. If this isn't blatant favoritism, then what is? The association is supposed to uphold fairness, but here they are, bending the rules just for Hunter Sung Jin Woo. Turning to association president Go Gun-hee, he throws down the challenge. "Say something." Go Gun-hee, cool as ever, mutters, "Yeah, this is preferential treatment." A wave of murmurs sweeps through the room. Tension thickens. But instead of backpedaling, Go Gun-hee raises his voice, cutting through the noise. "Let me ask you all something. If you had to choose between a raid team of 20 A-rank hunters or just Hunter Sung Jin Woo to handle a dungeon break, who are you putting your money on?" Chairman Go turns his attention to Namjoon Wook. With a knowing smirk, he brings up how Namjoon just moved into a luxury high-rise near the Hunters Guild, where the property prices are insane. "Tell me, why'd you do that?" Namjoon clears his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "That has nothing to do with this conversation," he mutters. But Go Gun-hee doesn't let up. "Come on, you did it for your own safety. Just like every other citizen in Korea who prays, that Hunter Sung Jin Woo stays right where he is." He reminds them that foreign countries are practically begging Jin Woo to join them. Then he lays it out. No sugarcoating. "Do you really think he's sticking around if we can't even meet one of his conditions?" His expression darkens. "Do you all want to see another Hwang Dong-soo situation? He's talking about the S-rank hunter who ditched Korea for America. Because if another S-rank gate opens here, let's be real, who do you think is actually saving who?" Meanwhile, somewhere else, Mommy Cha scrolls through her phone. Her eyes land on a photo. Daddy Woo standing next to Jin Ho's cousin. Her fingers tighten. The whole damn building shakes as Mommy Cha absolutely loses it, her fury rocking the entire foundation. Jin Ho is completely blown away by the sheer size of a gate. Seeing his reaction, Jin Woo can't help but wonder how he would have responded if he had seen the even bigger gate in Busan. Just as he turns, he's instantly swarmed by reporters, throwing questions at him from every direction. Right in the middle of the chaos, Woo Jin-chul arrives and the guildmaster immediately brings up a concern. How the hell is Jin Woo's personal information getting out? Jin-chul explains that while they can protect his personal details, they have no control over public knowledge of a gate's location. He casually advises Jin Woo not to post pictures on social media next time. Meanwhile, the Vice Guild Master questions whether Jin Woo is really okay with skipping out on a retrieval or mining team, doubting that he can handle everything alone. But Jin Woo just waves off the concern. His shadows have got it covered. As Jin-chul scans the summons, his eyes widen in shock. Every single one of them is B rank or higher. He quickly realizes that Jin Woo isn't just qualified for a raid permit, he completely blows the requirements out of the water. Anyone crying about preferential treatment is just talking nonsense. With everything confirmed, Jin-chul shrugs off his jacket, revealing a gleaming set of armor underneath, catching the guild leaders completely off guard. He explains that the association president personally sent him to make sure this whole operation was actually safe. Once the raid kicks off, Sung Jin Woo glances at the chief of surveillance and asks if he's absolutely sure about this. The man just stands there, stunned. A moment later, his face shifts from confusion to pure disbelief as Jin Woo's Shadow Knights tear through an A-rank Naga like it's nothing. At the same time, Tank swings a massive paw and rips one's head clean off. Iron lets out a deafening roar, and the Shadow Ants rip through their enemies like a swarm of locusts. A high orc shadow joins in, skewering another monster without breaking a sweat. Even experienced mage-class hunters and close combat specialists would struggle against these creatures, but the Shadow Army just keeps going, their bodies regenerating as fast as they take damage. Jin-chul, however, can't take his eyes off one summon, Igris. The Crimson Knight swings his sword, and lightning crackles through the air with every strike. Jin-chul knows that only high-level mages with massive reserves of magical energy can control lightning, yet Igris does it effortlessly. He dashes through the Nagas, slicing them apart before they explode in bursts of electricity and smoke. Jin Chul tries to gauge Igris's strength, wondering if he'd even stand a chance in a one-on-one fight. Then, in the middle of the carnage, one of the shadow ants casually chomps down on a Naga's severed head. Annoyed, Jinwoo boots the ant straight into the ceiling, scolding it. "Do you have any idea how much those monster corpses are worth?" he snaps. Turning to his mining team, he reminds them to stay focused and keep pulling out those magic crystals. Watching it all unfold, Woo Jin-chul finally understands why the chairman wanted him to observe Sung Jin-woo firsthand. This guy isn't just clearing an A-rank dungeon. He's looting it, mining it, and doing it all without breaking a sweat. A massive, slithering Naga boss emerges. But Jinwoo doesn't even flinch. Without hesitation, he dismisses all his summons except for the ones still working, allowing them to melt back into his shadow. The supervisor, baffled, asks why he'd cancel them when they were more than capable of handling the boss. Jinwoo just smirks, pulling out his daggers. "If I rely on my shadows too much, my own skills will start to dull," and with that, he moves. Like a blur, he sprints up the monster's massive body, leaps into the air, and, slash, takes its head clean off in a single strike. The battlefield falls silent. Jin Chul stands frozen, struggling to process what just happened. An A-rank dungeon boss, one of the strongest monsters out there, just got one shot. As the system notification pops up, Jinwoo levels up once more, hitting 101. His reward? Every single one of his job-specific skills levels up, including Shadow Exchange, shaving another hour off its cooldown. That gets him thinking. If he keeps pushing this skill, could he eliminate the cooldown entirely? If that happens, no matter where he is in the world, he'd never have to worry about protecting his family. Jin Chul, still in shock, studies the Naga's corpse. Its scales are absurdly tough, valuable materials used to craft armor and shields. Yet Jinwoo sliced through it effortlessly with nothing but a pair of daggers. And then, before anyone can process what's happening, Jinwoo places a hand over the fallen boss and utters a single word, "Arise." A system alert flashes. The monarch's voice has ignited the fighting spirit of the deceased, and the newly born shadow immediately jumps to level 13. Jinwoo nods, pleased. Its rank matches Tusk's, and its strength is nearly on par with its living form. But something's off. It's smaller. Normally, his shadows either keep their original size or grow even larger, but this one has shrunk significantly. Still, the magic radiating from it is massive, easily comparable to Tusk. Maybe, Jin figures, if this summon can expand its form with magic, this size is just its base state. Since the creature has been ranked as an elite knight, Jinwoo gives it a name, Jima. Jinho, still in awe, is thrilled that Jinwoo managed to turn such a beast into one of his shadows. But before they can celebrate, the cave rumbles. The entire dungeon is collapsing. Jinho's eyes widen as he yells out, "It's time to get the hell out of here!" Outside the gate, chaos unfolds. Reporters freeze, their jaws practically hitting the floor as they try to comprehend what they're seeing. And then, as if the situation wasn't insane enough, Tusk strides through the gate with the Naga boss's corpse slung over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Cameras go wild, flashing in rapid succession, capturing the surreal moment. And Tusk? He actually grins, clearly enjoying the attention. As the hunters step outside, they quickly realize the crowd has doubled. Jinwoo figures it's because this was his first official guild raid. A completely exhausted, mentally drained Woo Jin-chul lets out a deep sigh and mutters, "That's all." Chairman Go Gun-hee, listening to the full report, is floored. Even for a seasoned hunter like Jin Chul, who has witnessed countless raids, this wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. That wasn't a raid, he states. That was a one-sided massacre. He then turns to Jin Chul, telling him to go home and get some rest. The supervisor nods, too tired to argue, and takes his leave. Left alone in his office, Chairman Go stands by the window, deep in thought. Calling Jinwoo a one-man raid team doesn't even cut it. No, he's a one-man guild. A knowing smirk forms on Go Gun-hee's face as he recalls the first time he laid eyes on Jinwoo. His instincts were right. This hunter was about to flip the entire world upside down. Not just Korea. The entire world. In Tokyo, the atmosphere shifts. The winds howl. The sky darkens. People stop in their tracks looking up in horror. A massive gate has appeared out of nowhere. Meanwhile, 3 men discuss the unusual gathering of all the major guilds. The fact that Japan has called every guild master together is no small matter. Something serious must be happening. Their conversation halts when they notice Sugimoto, the newly appointed guildmaster of the Short Sword Guild, arriving with a force of powerful S-rank hunters. The men resume their discussion, recalling how Japan lost 7 S-rank hunters, including Goto Ryuji, during the last Jeju Island raid. Rumors are spreading that Matsumoto is at the end of his rope. They remark that Japan's top guilds once had complete control over all the best hunters, so seeing them struggle for once is somewhat satisfying. As far as they're concerned, the Short Sword Guild is finished. While discussing their own ambitions, they claim that if they put in the effort, they could become Japan's strongest guild. However, Sugimoto suddenly stops and glances in their direction. His piercing gaze is enough to silence them, and they promptly make their exit. Minoru smirks, remarking that those men were never this arrogant when Goto was alive. Opportunistic rats. Kanai then brings up the planned merger between the Black Hole Guild and the Snowy Mountains Guild. Once combined, their number of S-rank hunters will be 4, the same as their own. Sugimoto scoffs at the idea, questioning whether they truly believe merging will make them Japan's top guild. To him, it's absurd. What difference does it make if they're all weak and lack real strength? Suddenly, a man slams his hand on the table in frustration. He demands to know why the Hunters Association has yet to respond to the S-rank gate that has appeared in the heart of Tokyo. He anxiously asks what will happen if a dungeon break occurs. Matsumoto responds, explaining that no S-rank hunter in Japan is capable of handling an S-rank dungeon alone, unless they bring in a national-level hunter. Another man chimes in, telling Chong Li not to ask such an obvious question. With all the guild masters gathered here, the answer should already be clear. If they had paid attention to the Jeju Island raid, they'd know exactly what to expect. Someone else asks if any plans have been made and whether hiring Thomas Andre is an option. However, another scoffs at the suggestion, pointing out that Japan no longer has the resources to afford someone like Thomas. Chong Li wonders aloud just how many hunters in the world would even be willing to take on an S-rank dungeon. It's then that Sugimoto speaks up. He states that there is one hunter who will step in, for the right price. The barrier expert, Yuri Orlov. We're considering hiring him. Jin's anticipation grows as he approaches level 102. He's eager to see what new surprises come with higher levels. After all, reaching level 100 granted him the key to the Kartanon Temple, and at level 101, all his job-specific skills received a boost. As he pulls into the parking lot, Jin wonders how Jin-ho is handling things on his own. The workload would be much more manageable with an extra employee. Just as he's lost in thought, he spots Hunter Cha. And at that exact moment, she notices him too. Cha immediately turns to leave, but Jin moves so fast it's almost as if he teleports in front of her, cutting off her escape. "Why come to the office if you were just going to run the moment you saw me?" he asks. Cha, avoiding his gaze, simply gestures toward her car. The insidious Rizzler quickly realizes why. She couldn't take her car since they used Shadow Exchange last time. Ignoring his question, she instead asks if he has a moment to talk. Although her mind is full of questions about Jin's mysterious new employee, she holds back. Instead, she catches him off guard by revealing that Byung-gu left her a message about his power. Jin stops her right there and invites her somewhere more private, an office with dim lighting. A little later, Cha hesitantly asks if anyone else is in the office. Jin tells her that the Vice Master stayed behind at the dungeon site. At this, she visibly tenses, suddenly aware that it's just the two of them. Jin, however, is focused on something else. "How did Byung-gu leave you a message?" he asks. Cha recalls the chilling experience. As she was falling into the abyss, she suddenly heard a voice. A shadowy figure, Byung-gu, emerged, grabbing her before she plunged deeper. He left her with an ominous warning. Jin must be cautious with his power. Byung-gu explained that something had pulled him back from the eternal void. But the being that returned wasn't truly him. It carried his memories, his will, and his consciousness, yet he felt like nothing more than a mindless servant, existing only to obey Jin Wu. The most disturbing part wasn't that he had lost control. It was that he actually enjoyed it. He wanted to serve. Cha, unsettled, asked what it all meant. Byung-gu's answer was simple yet terrifying. Jin's power is too overwhelming, too dangerous. He needs to understand this before it's too late. Finally, he left her with one last cryptic statement, one that sent shivers down her spine. The true army of Hunter Sung, his real army, is this. As Jin bites into his sandwich, he reflects on Cha's message. Is it really true? Regardless, he knows that finding the source of his power is more important than simply getting stronger. Meanwhile, Jin-ho reminisces about the old days, back when they used to clear C-rank dungeons together. Jin, still chewing, tells him to hold that thought until he finishes eating. The Vice Master then asks why Jin doesn't let the shadows handle things on their own, since they can move independently. Jin explains that the farther away he is, the less experience he gains. Plus, without supervision, there's no telling what kind of chaos his goobers might cause. Jin-ho checks in on Jinah, asking if she's doing okay after the dungeon break at her school. Jinwoo reassures him that she's been told to rest for a while and that the most trustworthy guard is watching over her. At that moment, Jin remembers that with shadow storage reaching level 2, he unlocked shared senses, allowing him to see through his shadow's eyes. He tunes in, only to find Beru fiddling with the TV remote while mimicking the characters on screen. Jin-ah, however, is sleeping peacefully. Satisfied, Jin shifts his vision to other locations, his mother shopping, Choi and Baek arguing, and then Cha bathing. Jin immediately pulls out of shared senses, his face burning with embarrassment. Jin-ho, noticing his reaction, asks if he dozed off. Jin considers apologizing to Cha and even wonders if he should invite her to lunch as a peace offering. Changing the subject, Jin-ho mentions the S-rank gate that recently appeared in Japan. There are less than 3 days left until a dungeon break, and hunters from all over the world are being summoned. He then asks if Jin has been contacted. Jin, surprised by how much time has passed, shakes his head. They haven't reached out to me, but I have bigger concerns right now. His mind shifts to the mysterious key he possesses. With only 27 hours left, he wonders what secrets it holds. What are you? Isn't it time you told me? Meanwhile, across the sea, Yuri Orlov, the greatest S-rank support hunter, introduces himself to the Draw Sword Guild. Reviewing the reports, he praises their decision to evacuate civilians, but then questions Japan's ability to respond to the crisis. Is it true they can only deploy 6 S-rank hunters? Sugimoto confirms this, explaining that each guild must keep at least 1 S-rank behind to handle A-rank gates. Yuri scoffs, wiping his chin. Pathetic. Slamming his drink onto the table, he names his price. 3.6 billion yearly, 10 million daily. Pay me and I'll hold the gate as long as you want. Sugimoto is shocked by the staggering cost of Yuri Orlov's services. The Russian hunter confidently declares that for 3.6 billion a year, he can protect Japan, adding that his price is far more reasonable than what Thomas Andre would demand. Minoru turns to Kanai, asking if she understands any Russian or has any idea what the scumbag is saying. Kanai admits she doesn't, but from the way it sounds, it can't be anything good. Yuri then provokes Sugimoto, questioning whether he'll pay the price to save his country or let it fall just to hold on to money. He mocks their predicament, pointing out that they're in no position to negotiate. Even if they groveled at his feet, he sneers, it still wouldn't be enough. Sugimoto, noticing Yuri's overwhelming confidence, asks if he's truly as skilled as he claims. Without hesitation, Yuri affirms it, boasting that he alone is worth more than hiring 100 of the small fry hunters standing behind Sugimoto, referring to Minoru and Kanai. The S-rank hunters may not understand Yuri's words, but the tension in the air is unmistakable. Without warning, a barrier materializes around Minoru and Kanai. Smirking, Yuri declares that they won't be able to move a muscle unless he allows it. Go ahead. Try to break free, he taunts. The 2 hunters are stunned. How is he able to completely restrict the movements of 2 S-rank hunters? Yuri then states that he will block the S-rank gate and, as a bonus, save the 2 hunters trapped behind him. Sugimoto acknowledges Yuri's abilities, but remains uncertain whether the government will approve such an enormous budget for the barrier master. Clenching the armrest of his chair, he debates whether trusting Yuri is their best option. After a moment of contemplation, he asks if he can make a quick phone call. Jinwoo ties his shoes and tells his mother he'll be back soon. Concerned, she asks if it's anything dangerous. Jin reassures her with a calm smile, promising that she has nothing to worry about. "I'll be right back," he says, stepping out the door. The key to the temple shows only 1 minute remaining. As the countdown reaches 0, Jin activates the key, revealing the gate's location. At Jin-ah's school, association agents are taken aback to see a gate appear in the same spot for the second time. They're relieved that no students are around, but the situation is still unsettling. One agent moves to stop a hooded figure approaching the gate, only to realize it's none other than Hunter Sung Jin Wu. Jin asks how long the gate has been open and is alarmed to learn that it's already been active for 3 days. A sinking realization dawns on him. He's been deceived. He thought the key would reveal where the gate would appear, not that it had already materialized. The agent informs him that the gate is estimated to be C rank and that a team of hunters entered roughly 2 hours ago. Without hesitation, Jin urges them to call off the raid immediately. The team inside is in extreme danger and he doesn't have time to explain. Deep within a perilous dungeon, a raid team struggles with a massive door that refuses to budge, even under the influence of magic. Frustration mounts as they attempt to force it open, but their efforts are in vain. Suddenly, Jin Wu materializes out of nowhere, startling the hunters. He warns them that the door is a trap, but his abrupt arrival and cryptic message leave them doubtful. Their skepticism, however, quickly fades when one of them recognizes him as the formidable S-rank hunter, Sung Jin Wu. Jin Wu explains the immense danger lurking within the dungeon and asserts that he will take care of it alone, urging the team to retreat. As he approaches the door, the system notifies him that a key is required to proceed. Without hesitation, he summons the key and unlocks the door effortlessly, leaving the hunters in stunned silence. In solo leveling, a hunter protests, arguing that their guild legally secured the rights to raid this dungeon and that Jin Wu has no authority to send them away. Unfazed, Jin Wu extends an invitation to anyone brave enough to follow him inside. One hunter, eager to prove his worth, boldly steps forward. However, the moment he crosses the threshold, the system recognizes that he is not the key holder. Instantly, a statue springs to life and attacks. Jinwoo reacts in a flash, yanking the hunter back just in time to save him from a fatal strike. He then warns the group that the chamber is teeming with such lethal threats and commands them to evacuate. He instructs them to inform the Hunters Association of a double dungeon's discovery. As Jinwoo steps into the ominous chamber, the door slams shut behind him. Torches ignite, casting an eerie glow over the ancient, moss-covered statues. A wave of familiarity washes over him. This is where it all began. Yet, something feels different this time. The atmosphere is thick with an unsettling presence. Scanning the statues, Jinwoo quickly realizes they are neither demons nor living entities, but are being controlled by an unseen force. His gaze sharpens as he pinpoints the single source of magical energy in the room. "So it really was you," Jinwoo mutters, his eyes locking on to the winged statue clutching the scripture. The statue's lips curl into a sinister grin as it finally speaks. "So, you've come at last." The tension in the air thickens, signaling the start of yet another deadly encounter. The atmosphere grows heavy. The massive statue unfurls its 6 wings before Jinwoo then crushes the scripted tablet in its grip. "You're finally here," it intones. Jinwoo narrows his eyes, questioning whether the statue even has the authority to destroy the tablet like that. A realization hits him. The so-called rules written there never truly held any meaning from the beginning. The statue responds, stating that while the rules once served a purpose, they are now irrelevant. Jinwoo, always sharp, asks if the statue was the one who summoned him here. The statue confirms it. Pressing further, Jinwoo demands to know if it's a monster, but the statue merely grins and tells him he's asking the wrong question. Instead of wondering what the statue is, he should be questioning what he himself is. With an ominous tone, the statue makes its final declaration. "Now, this will be your ultimate test." The other statues around the chamber begin to stir, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. "If you're still standing when the test is over, I will reveal everything. That is the reward I will grant you." Jinwoo attempts to summon his shadows, but the winged statue snaps its fingers, nullifying the attempt. I have no interest in the abilities of your summons, it remarks. Immediately, a system notification flashes before Jin. Certain skills are restricted. You cannot leave until the trial is complete. So that's how it is. Jin realizes, his mind racing. All the trump cards he had painstakingly prepared, rendered useless in an instant. A statue lunges forward, its blade piercing the air toward him. Jin swiftly evaluates his options. While his skills are locked, he still has access to his inventory. Fine. Then I'll just crush them with raw strength. Jin catches the incoming blade, his grip tightening. With a sharp movement, he snaps off the tip and hurls it straight into the knight's skull. Yet, the puppet remains standing. Without hesitation, Jin launches himself onto its face, grabbing the embedded blade and driving it deeper into the monster's head. Before he can fully land, another statue swings a colossal axe at him. Jin summons his daggers, slicing the weapon in half before flipping onto its head and driving both blades down. From the corner of his eye, he spots an archer statue drawing its bow. Without missing a beat, Jin cleaves the arrow in midair before propelling himself upward. Spinning kick. The shattered arrow shoots back, obliterating the archer's skull. Jin steadies himself, standing amidst the wreckage. This is it. The moment he's been waiting for. The moment he's been training for. The winged statue, visibly entertained, chuckles. You've improved considerably. Unlike before, Jin can clearly track all of their movements now. They're powerful, absurdly powerful, but Jin knows one thing for certain. He can take them. The winged statue acknowledges his growth, but warns. The trial isn't over yet. The ground trembles beneath Jin's feet. He stiffens, his instincts flaring. The seated statue, the one that had remained motionless all this time, slowly rises. Looming over Jin and the other statues, it stretches, grinning ominously. The winged statue extends its arms. Now then, it's time to worship God. A contract is pushed across the table, one that surrenders all rights to the essence stones on Jeju Island. Chairman Go glances at the document and asks, "What's the reason for this?" Matsumoto, composed as ever, replies, "In exchange, we'd like to recruit Sung Jin Wu." The translator does his job, relaying the message. Gun-hee lets out a small chuckle. Jin Wu isn't even under the Hunters Association. Hanakawa translates, and Matsumoto acknowledges the point. We're aware. But we haven't been able to reach him. All we want is a chance to negotiate. Chairman Go leans back, considering the offer. Giving up that much profit? Just to hire a single hunter? It wasn't a bad deal, considering Jin Woo's strength. But then Chairman Go switches to Japanese. Let's continue this conversation without translators. Matsumoto, shocked, asks, "You know Japanese?" Chairman gives a small smile. "My father ran a business in Japan when I was a child." His tone shifts. "If this is another one of your schemes, I suggest you stop right now." Matsumoto narrows his eyes. "What exactly are you implying?" Chairman Go doesn't hold back. "I've heard rumors that the Blade Guild severed ties with you." Matsumoto bolts upright. "How could you possibly know that?" Chairman Go remains calm. It was obvious. The Blade Guild turned down funding from the Japanese Hunters Association. They only accepted government support. He continues. "The Blade Guild used to be under your thumb. With Goto Ryuji, you had control over all the S-rank hunters when necessary. But now, that guild has crumbled, and your association can't hold them together anymore. There's a power struggle." Chairman Go's gaze sharpens. "If this gate isn't properly secured, you will bear the consequences." He reaches for a camera, placing it firmly on the table. Even if Goto had his own ambitions, he was still Japan's face to the world. But look at the fallout. The collapse of the Blade Guild, the infighting between Japan's guilds, the lives lost due to your underhanded tactics. It all falls squarely on you. Matsumoto's eyes flick to the camera. "What's that?" Gun-hee smirks. "A receiver that was linked to Goto's team." Matsumoto's face drains of color. "Did you really think I wouldn't uncover the truth?" Chairman's voice booms, his presence suffocating. "And yet you sit here, trying to haggle over mana crystals?" Matsumoto is completely cornered. Chairman Go exhales, grabs the recorder, and with a single clench of his fingers, it shatters, along with the entire table beneath it. The room is dead silent. Gun-hee straightens. "I'm not so heartless as to let one man's greed throw all of Asia into turmoil. His final words strike deep. You should be grateful to Hunter Sung Jin Wu for this. A storm is brewing, and it's far from over. Jin swiftly slices off a statue's head. However, more statues immediately begin pursuing him as he mutters about how they just keep coming. Glancing back, he notices the ominous statue's glowing eyes and the night statues closing in fast. With no time to evade, he quickly activates ruler's authority, locking the knights in place. At that moment, the ominous statue fires a barrage of devastating laser beams. Thinking fast, Jin forces the knights together, using them as a shield. As the beams melt through them, he suddenly unlocks the final form of Dominator's touch. He barely manages to steady himself before the beams blast through the statues. Jin dodges just in time, realizing that even at his current strength, a direct hit would be lethal. I need to take that one down first, Jin mutters, locking onto the ominous statue. With a burst of speed, he launches himself toward the massive figure. Sensing his attack, the ominous statue raises its foot and slams it into the ground. The false god grins until it notices light glowing beneath the swirling dust. Jinwoo bursts upward from beneath the statue's feet, forcing it to prepare another laser blast. However, Jin quickly formulates a plan. If he combines his speed with ruler's authority, he can strike from its blind spot. Using his skill, he grips the ominous statue's shoulder and yanks himself forward, narrowly dodging the lasers as they fire. He immediately notices that the gravitational pull of his ability has grown significantly stronger after the upgrade. He barely exerted any effort, yet it worked on such a massive target. Landing on the ominous statue's shoulder, Jin activates Mutilate and slashes at its face. However, to his shock, the Demon King's daggers only leave shallow cuts. Realizing that raw power might be his best option, Jin leaps forward, aiming for a weak point in the statue's structure. Grabbing onto it, he channels his energy into his fist before delivering a powerful punch straight into its form. The puppeteer watches in disbelief, surprised that Jin would rely on brute force against his creation. But Jin isn't finished. He rears his fist back and slams the ominous statue again, and then again. With all his strength, he delivers a final, crushing blow, sending the massive figure crashing to the ground. The remaining knight statues charge at him. Without hesitation, he lifts his hand and uses commander's authority to slam them all into the ground. As the shattered statues lie motionless, Jin takes a breath, sensing that he has grown even stronger throughout this battle. Suddenly, the Winged One applauds him, calling him impressive. Jin narrows his eyes and demands that he keep his promise. However, the statue merely smirks and declares that the test isn't over yet. At that moment, a system notification appears before Jin. An urgent quest has been issued. The Winged One announces that he is the final challenge. Defeat the enemy within 10 minutes, or your heart will stop. He clenches his fists and glares at the statue. Who the hell are you? He demands. The statue chuckles. I already told you that was a pointless question. It pauses before continuing. But fine. I'll give you an answer anyway. A grin spreads across its face. I am the architect of the system. Meanwhile, Wu Jin-chul and the surveillance division arrive at the gate. Jin-chul has brought 7 elite hunters, knowing they won't be of any real help to Hunter Sung. They're only here as a backup in case anything goes wrong. As they near the gate, Jin-chul suddenly halts, sensing a powerful wave of magical energy. He asks the others if they can feel it, this cold, ominous magic storm. Jin-chul then asks if any large guilds are preparing for a raid nearby. He learns that the Hunters Guild is active in the area, with 2 S-rank hunters participating. Without hesitation, he orders an emergency request for cooperation with the guild. As he does, he can't help but wonder, just who exactly is Sung Jin Wu? The architect's wings undergo a dramatic transformation. Jin Wu, looking visibly exhausted, watches as the creature's 6 additional limbs shift into hands. With a grin, the architect dashes forward, appearing right beside Jin in an instant. Before Jin can react, the architect lands a rapid triple punch with enough force to lift him off the ground and slam him into the wall. Jin is left dazed and coughing blood, but the architect gives him no time to recover and attacks once more. Jin narrowly dodges, but the statue predicts his every move. Grinning, the architect unleashes a flurry of punches, Star Platinum style. At first, it seems as though Jin is helpless, but the architect notices something. Jin isn't blocking the punches. Instead, he's redirecting them with precise movements. Their eyes meet. The architect smirks and compliments Jin before landing another punch square to his face. Confident that his blow will land, the architect grins even wider. But before it can react, Jin slides down the statue's arm, landing a powerful blow to the architect's forehead. The force sends the architect skidding back. It recovers quickly, laughing as it remarks on how fascinating humans are. It never expected one to pose such a challenge. "How interesting," it says with a sinister grin. Jinwoo glares at the creature through bloodied eyes, piecing things together. He assumes the architect lured him in after he reached level 100, thinking it could defeat him at this stage. But Jin isn't interested in just fighting. He demands answers. He asks why the architect created the system, why he was chosen, and what is happening to the world. Instead of responding, the architect charges at him. "You want answers?" It mocks, suggesting that Jinwoo believes killing it will prevent him from getting those answers. Jinwoo dashes away, realizing that physical attacks won't work. He activates ruler's authority to control the architect from a distance. To his shock, the architect counters with the same ability, creating a force field between them. Jin's eyes widen, so even ranged attacks are futile. The architect laughs. "It doesn't matter whether you kill me or not," it says. "The answer you seek was decided long before this moment, from the instant I designed everything." After the architect tells Jinwoo that he will receive his answers regardless of whether he kills him or not, Jinwoo demands to know how it orchestrated everything and granted him such immense power. The architect clarifies that it never personally chose Jinwoo, rather it merely designed the player system. Confident in its creation, the architect insists that its plan is flawless. Meanwhile, Jinwoo, aware that time is running out, realizes he has no option but to launch a direct assault. The architect leaps into the air, taunting Jinwoo to fight with everything he has left. It crashes into the ground with force, prompting Jinwoo to evade swiftly. The monster immediately follows up with relentless attacks from all sides. At that moment, Jinwoo's senses heighten. "I can do this," he thinks, keenly observing the enemy's movements. As the architect swings its massive club, Jinwoo sidesteps and slashes its leg. He then swiftly dodges another strike and lands a precise cut on the architect's cheek. Dumbfounded by Jinwoo's speed, the architect struggles to comprehend how a mere human is evading its attacks without external assistance. Jinwoo capitalizes on the monster's surprise, mocking it while severing one of its arms. The architect is left in disbelief. Despite being a lowly human, Jinwoo is forcing it to struggle, even if only in a temporary form. Then, a realization dawns upon the architect. "I see. That's why he was chosen." It acknowledges that Jinwoo possesses something, even if only a small fraction. Overcome with rage, the architect bellows, demanding to know how a human dares to defy him. As the seconds continue to tick away, the architect reanimates his puppets one by one. Jinwoo surges forward, leaps into the air, and activates ruler's authority, crashing into the ground with overwhelming force. The resulting shockwave sends the statues flying backward. He then dashes through the battlefield, weaving between the statue of God's powerful strikes as his confrontation with the architect escalates. Jinwoo severs 2 more arms but is suddenly knocked back by a forceful sword swing. Before he can fully recover, a shield knight slams into him from behind. Recognizing his old foe, Jinwoo recalls their previous encounter, fueling his frustration. With a powerful leap, he drives his elbow down, splitting the knight's head clean in half. Wasting no time, he turns his focus back to the architect and slices off its last 2 arms. A thunderous crash echoes through the chamber, and as the dust settles, the timer reveals 2 minutes and 11 seconds remaining. Accepting its defeat, the architect concedes. The test is over. After Jinwoo completes the final test, the architect points at him and cryptically declares, "The answers are within you." Perplexed, Jin questions what this means, but before he receives an answer, a system notification appears, prompting him to accept or decline. The architect then explains that it will grant Jin a choice, retrieving stored data from his memory. After a brief moment of hesitation, Jin chooses to accept. Instantly, a blinding light engulfs him, forcing his vision to go white. When Jinwoo regains awareness, he finds himself suspended in midair, floating above a vast army of monsters. The sight bewilders him. As he observes the battlefield below, the creatures abruptly turn their attention to the sky. Curious, Jin follows their gaze, only to be stunned by the sight of colossal gates stretching across the heavens. At that moment, he realizes he is no longer on Earth. Examining the monsters more closely, Jin notices that many resemble the ones he has encountered inside the gates. A chilling thought crosses his mind. If all of these creatures were to emerge from a single gate simultaneously, humanity would be utterly doomed. However, despite their monstrous appearance, their adversaries were not humans. As the gates shattered open, Jin Wu saw their true opponents, angels. A full-scale war was unfolding before him. The monsters banded together, pooling their strength in an attempt to fight off the Silver Soldiers. The battlefield was a cacophony of chaos, the deafening sounds of war echoing across the landscape. Triumphant shouts quickly dissolved into agonized screams as the ground became drenched in blood. The Silver Soldiers possessed overwhelming might, and before long, the monsters teetered on the brink of complete annihilation. Just when defeat seemed inevitable, the tide began to shift. The once unrelenting Silver Soldiers started to falter, their movements slowing. Then, a horse stepped forward, carrying a warrior exuding an ominous presence. Jinwoo's eyes widened in recognition. He could sense the monarch's territory ability. Moments later, he witnessed something even more shocking: shadow extraction. There was no doubt about it. The formidable figure on horseback was none other than the Shadow Monarch. For the monsters, death was not the end. Their spilled blood darkened, morphing into a sinister new power. Jin Wu was left speechless at the sheer scale of summoned creatures before him. Compared to this grand army, his own shadow forces felt insignificant. The fallen monsters clawed their way back from the abyss, charging once more toward the Silver Soldiers. The battlefield became a whirlwind of silver and black, the war intensifying with every passing second. Agonized cries and the clash of steel filled the air as a banner was raised. What had initially appeared to be a one-sided slaughter had now transformed into a full-scale battle, all because of one individual. The Shadow Monarch cut through the Silver Soldiers with ruthless precision, his presence alone shifting the course of the war. Then, in an instant, he surged forward and unleashed Commander's authority, telekinetic claws ripping through the angels. Jin Wu was stunned. The Shadow Monarch has the same telekinetic powers as me? The realization sent a shiver down his spine. The Shadow Soldiers continued their relentless assault, caught in a never-ending cycle of destruction and resurrection, eventually overwhelming their adversaries. Wherever the Shadow Monarch went, devastation followed in his wake. A monitoring division and several elite members of the Hunters Guild arrive at the double dungeon, immediately unsettled by the immense magic energy radiating from within. Cha Hai-in senses that the aura doesn't belong to Jin Wu, making her even more eager to confirm whether the rumors about the dungeon are true. Meanwhile, Wu Jinchul recalls Jin Wu mentioning that he wasn't the one who cleared the double dungeon previously, which makes him question why he would return now. As the hunters cautiously push open the doors, they are stunned by the eerie sight before them. Jinchul examines the chamber, noting that the legendary statues had indeed been here all along. Just then, a chilling voice echoes through the space. The architect speaks, questioning why humans have entered his domain uninvited. He dismisses their arrival as yet another outside interference. The hunters are momentarily frozen. It's not just that the monster is speaking their language, it's the sheer intelligence and authority in its voice that unsettles them. The architect, however, cuts through their hesitation, instructing them to remain silent so they don't disturb the king's slumber. His cryptic words send a wave of confusion through the group. When they realize he is referring to Sung Jin Wu, the hunters exchange uncertain glances, struggling to grasp his meaning. But before they can make sense of it, chaos erupts. Without warning, the architect refers to them as strong humans who will serve as excellent sacrifices for the king. Cha Hai-in barely has a moment to react before the statues spring into action, ready to tear the intruders apart. Meanwhile, in another realm, the demon clans march forward, banners raised high as they prepare for an all-out war against the Shadow Monarch. Among them, a towering wolf and an army of low-level demons advance, setting the stage for a fierce battle. But before that confrontation unfolds, the scene shifts back to the double dungeon, where the hunters are desperately fighting for survival. Inside the dungeon, Choi Jong-in orders the healers to pool their strength and move the injured to the rear. The oppressive presence of the false god looms as the statue knights close in. Watching the chaos unfold, the architect smirks and makes an offer. If they manage to destroy his puppets, he'll allow them to witness the king's rebirth. That is, if any of them are still alive by then. A desperate shout rings out, warning the hunters to dodge. In an instant, the false god unleashes a devastating laser attack, wiping out everything in its path, going full Homelander on the battlefield. However, one of the strongest hunters evades the assault and retaliates with a massive fireball, slamming it straight into the statue's face. Seizing the opening, he commands the others to focus on eliminating the statue knights, while the false god remains preoccupied. Jin Chul lunges at a statue, his fist charged with energy as he delivers a powerful punch. But to his shock, the attack has no effect whatsoever. Realizing the statues are far more durable than anticipated, he swiftly retreats as Choi Jong-in casts another fireball, temporarily blinding one of the statues. He then warns everyone to stay vigilant. The statues possess an unnatural level of physical resistance. As the smoke begins to clear, the Guildmaster's unease deepens. If their attacks are useless, could the statues have magical resistance as well? At that moment, Ki-hoon shouts that his taunt ability isn't working, and Cha confirms that her psychokinesis is also ineffective. A creeping sense of dread takes hold. If their abilities aren't working, what chance do they have? With no other options left, Choi Jong-in shifts his focus to the only possible solution: waking Jin Wu. He launches a fireball toward him, hoping the impact will be enough to stir him from his slumber. But just before the attack can connect, Choi's eyes widen in alarm as the architect intercepts it with ease. In a blink, the architect pivots and moves to strike Choi in retaliation. Before the attack can land, members of the surveillance team rush forward, intercepting the architect and forcing him back. Seizing the moment, Jin Chul shouts to Cha Hai-in that they will hold off the architect. Her sole mission now is to wake Jin Wu. Determination flashes in her eyes as she charges forward. Sung Jin Woo finds himself witnessing an otherworldly battlefield. In this strange realm, resurrected shadow creatures wage war against the demon clan. Observing the relentless cycle of destruction and regeneration among his shadow soldiers, Jin Woo realizes that even with his current power, the sheer intensity of the magic would have been fatal for him. The demon clan and the beasts emerging from the twin gates massacre the shadow soldiers without hesitation. Yet, as Jin Woo watches the carnage unfold, he begins to question the nature of this conflict. If this is truly a war between the monsters and the silver soldiers, then why are the demons attacking the shadows so mercilessly? He starts to suspect that the shadow army was never actually on the monsters' side. Could this be some form of internal strife? All across the battlefield, demons lie dead, casualties of the brutal war. Amid the destruction, the shadow monarch strides toward the weakened leader of the demon clan. With a cold, measured tone, he states that the fighting could have ended today and demands to know why the leader betrayed him. The demon, unfazed, scoffs at the notion, declaring that he had the chance to kill the monarch. The shadow monarch, unsatisfied, presses the question again. But instead of offering an explanation, the demon merely chuckles and mutters something cryptic in foreign language. Lifting the defeated army leader, the shadow monarch listens as he continues to repeat the strange words. Without hesitation, he tightens his grip and crushes the demon's throat, ending his life. Yet, just as the last breath escapes his enemy, the monarch suddenly hesitates. A strange sense of familiarity washes over him as he stares into the lifeless eyes before him. A realization begins to form in his mind, and with a sudden movement, he removes his helmet. Then, the truth is revealed. The king of demons, Baron. Why is he here? The monarch stares at his hands in disbelief, and in that instant, the illusion shatters. He is not merely the shadow monarch. He is Sung Jin Woo himself. Shock grips him as he wonders how he failed to notice it before. Suddenly, he feels an odd sensation in his chest. Looking down, his armor crumbles as he places a hand over his heart. Beneath the shattered plating, a second purple heart pulsates with an eerie glow. Sensing something, Jin Wu turns around, his instincts on high alert. Floating above him, the silver soldiers watch in eerie silence. With that, the recalled data concludes. Leveling, the architect observes the battle with amusement, remarking that humans are entertaining playthings. He then provokes Hunter Cha, daring her to defy his design and surpass his expectations. In response, Cha unleashes her sword dance skill, engaging the crazed architect in an intense duel. Their blades collide in a rapid exchange of strikes, but despite her speed and precision, the architect effortlessly counters. With a swift motion, he delivers a deep slash across Cha's shoulder, rendering her arm useless. Scoffing at her struggle, the architect taunts that humans are ultimately predictable, doomed to follow the paths set for them. He arrogantly proclaims that his design accounts for every possible outcome, ensuring that their futile attacks will never break through his defenses. As he continues boasting about his flawless strategy, he is suddenly struck in the face by a magic attack. Choi Jong-in stands firm, reaffirming their only option. They must wake up Sung Jinwoo. At that moment, Mommy Cha seizes the opportunity and charges toward the unconscious hunter. However, the architect reacts instantly, intercepting her with frightening speed. Mommy Cha is forced to retreat, narrowly dodging his lethal strike. As she swiftly jumps back, the architect, impressed by her quick reflexes, acknowledges her ability to evade his attacks. But just as he speaks, something catches his eye, a shadow soldier tethered to the female hunter. Though the room's rules prevent the shadow from manifesting fully, the architect is visibly disturbed. The fact that the king assigned a soldier to her unsettles him. He demands to know how they found this place and what their connection to Sung Jinwoo is. Cha, standing her ground, boldly declares that they are Jin Woo's friends and have come to rescue him. The architect, now questioning the king's intentions, decides to put her to the test. He proclaims that today, one of the great monarchs will descend upon this world. He then delivers a chilling ultimatum. She will be allowed to witness this historic moment, but everyone else will perish where they stand. Not on my watch. A voice suddenly interrupts. Before anyone can react, Jin Wu appears in a blur, delivering a devastating punch that shatters the architect's jaw. The monstrous entity reels from the unexpected blow as Jin Wu glares at him, demanding to know what he has done to his body. Wu Jinchul is left in shock, while Choi Jong-in exhales in relief. Cha Hai-in stands frozen, unable to believe what she's seeing. The architect stumbles, collapsing under Jin Wu's overwhelming presence. "You're not the king," the monster mutters, his voice laced with disbelief. How could Jin Wu be standing in the king's place while still maintaining his own consciousness with a black heart? Jin Wu furrows his brows, feeling the immense energy coursing through him. He wonders if this overwhelming power is truly coming from the black heart. Then, the system delivers a notification. Jin Wu has been acknowledged by this force. As a result, he remembers how to defeat the Demon King, Baran of White Salt, and is granted the effect of Black Heart, increasing his mana by 100,000. After Jin Wu's devastating punch sends the architect crashing to the ground, he immediately senses the fear in the statue's reaction. It's obvious now, the architect never intended for Jin Wu to awaken the Black Heart's power, and it certainly wasn't meant to make him stronger. Realizing the data recall failed to answer all his questions, Jin Wu demands the truth. He wants to know why the architect was against him being chosen as a player, what a player truly is, and what the architect's real purpose was. However, instead of an explanation, the architect lets out a desperate scream. "No!" He howls, his voice filled with rage and panic. He calls Jin Wu the Shadow Monarch and warns that the other monarchs won't simply stand by while he grows stronger. Ignoring the architect's hysterics, Jin Wu calmly summons his daggers. "Just answer my questions," he orders. The architect, still in disbelief, mutters that things weren't supposed to turn out this way. But now, he thinks he understands why Jin Wu was chosen. Before he can say more, the air around them shifts. The other hunters stiffen as the once motionless statues begin to stir. Grinning, the architect declares that if he dies, no one will be able to stop his creations. Jin Wu, unimpressed, meets his gaze and replies, "And what if I kill you first, and then your puppets?" The damaged statue falters, then issues one final warning. If Jin Wu kills the creator of the system, there's a chance he'll revert back to being an E-rank hunter. Jin Wu considers this for a moment before smirking. "I've thought about that too." He explains that even if the system's creator perishes, the system itself won't simply collapse. It's already been set in motion. The architect shrieks in frustration, swearing that he will destroy, but before he can finish, his voice cuts off. A look of shock crosses his face as he realizes something terrifying. The system is blocking his access. How? He stammers. Jin Wu steps forward, his tone calm yet commanding. I saw this coming, he says. Remember what I told you? I'll devour the system. Or rather, I'll make it my own. The architect's face twists in horror. This is impossible, he screams. Jin Wu tilts his head slightly, his expression unreadable. Looks like your design had flaws, he remarks. Before the architect can react, Jinwoo moves. In the blink of an eye, he carves apart the system's creator, ending him completely. As the architect disintegrates, his final words echo through the chamber. He speaks of a prophecy. When the pillars of fire rise to uphold the heavens, death will come for you. Jinwoo exhales unfazed. So be it, he mutters. The Bravery Guild anxiously waits outside the dungeon, wondering what's taking the Hunters Guild so damn long inside. Their concerns turn into shock when the elite hunters finally emerge, bloodied, wrecked, and barely holding themselves together. The sight of the strongest hunters in such a ruined state leaves the Bravery Guild members speechless, questioning what kind of hell unfolded in that high-ranking gate. As the tension builds, Jinchul steps forward and grimly requests help in carrying out the fallen, the last ones to leave the dungeon. His mind lingers on the architect, still haunted by the countless unanswered questions gnawing at him. Meanwhile, Jincho reflects on the sheer magnitude of the disaster, realizing that if a dungeon break had happened, the destruction would have been catastrophic. The fact that 20 of the top elite hunters were wiped out is staggering, and he struggles to comprehend why Jin Wu faced this nightmare alone. Jin Chol never expected the casualties to spiral to such a tragic level. Amid the aftermath, Jin acknowledges that his survival was only possible thanks to the aid of the Hunters Guild and the Monitoring Division. He admits that he had personally requested their cooperation as soon as he learned Jin Wu had entered the double dungeon. Even with those precautions, the result was still a disaster. The chief of surveillance shifts his attention to Jin Wu, demanding answers. How the hell did he even find the double dungeon in the first place? The Shadow Monarch, unfazed, replies in his usual calm but cryptic manner. The dungeon summoned him. Jinchul eyes him skeptically, pressing for clarification. Jin elaborates, explaining that he received a message, something only he could see, proving this wasn't just some freak coincidence. His words carry weight, and despite the mystery, he seems to be telling the truth. Noticing his exhaustion, Mami Cha asks, "Are you all right?" Jin Wu, holding himself together for just a second longer, simply replies, "I'm fine," right before passing the hell out. In solo leveling, after the brutal events within the double dungeon, Jin Wu collapses from sheer exhaustion. When he regains consciousness, he finds himself gazing at an unfamiliar ceiling. Sitting up slowly, he wonders aloud if he's in a hospital. That's when Jin Ho rushes in, visibly emotional and relieved. Overcome with joy, he breaks into tears and asks Jin Wu why it took him so long to wake up. Jin Ho then reveals that he's been unconscious for 3 days, which shocks Jin Wu. Still drowsy, he tries to make sense of it all, realizing how much strain his body must have endured. He hadn't had a moment's rest after everything that happened. As he tries to recover, Jin Wu's mind shifts to a more pressing issue, the S-rank gate that had opened in Japan. He immediately asks Jin Ho about it, remembering the grave importance of the situation. Jin Ho's face grows serious as he begins to explain. The Japanese hunters and soldiers were horrified as colossal giants began emerging from the gate. These weren't your average foes. Giants are usually final bosses in high-tier A-rank dungeons, yet they were flooding out of an S-rank gate. The atmosphere quickly turned to fear and uncertainty. Amidst the chaos, Russian mage Yuri Orlov stepped in confidently. Calm and composed, he began drawing mana from nearby crystals, forming a massive magical barrier to contain the gate. He mocked the giants, dismissing them as weaklings not worthy of concern. But things took a drastic turn. As one of the giants tried to strike the barrier, Yuri laughed, confident that no such creature could even make a dent. Then, without warning, a massive hand appeared, effortlessly shoving the smaller giant aside. Out from the gate emerged Philosophe, a titan of overwhelming size and strength. Its presence alone sent chills through the battlefield. Yuri's expression changed from arrogance to dread. The titan raised its massive blade and in a single devastating swing sliced the magical barrier clean in half, shattering Yuri's confidence along with it. Frozen in fear, Yuri stood motionless, questioning the power he thought was unbeatable. Jinho's father wakes up from an unusually long nap, groaning as he stretches out. He lazily asks his slave how long he had been asleep. The slave informs him that he had been out for 23 hours and 46 minutes, and they were preparing to rush him to the hospital if he hadn't woken up within the next 16 minutes, just as he had instructed. The slave then delivers two pieces of urgent news. First, someone has miraculously awakened from the eternal slumber, and it turns out to be Jin Woo's mother. Still groggy, Jinho's dad questions whether Jin Woo really has the power to break such a powerful curse. Before he can ponder further, he demands to know the second matter. Without another word, the slave swings open the door, revealing a young woman standing outside. As the two begin talking, the scene abruptly shifts across the ocean to Japan. Panic erupts as Yuri Orlov screams in terror, plummeting straight into the gaping mouth of a giant, swallowed whole in a single, horrifying gulp. Tanks unleash heavy fire on the colossal monsters, while helicopters bombard them from above in a desperate assault. On the ground, Sugimoto stands at the front lines, barking orders to his squad. Naru and Kanai spring into action. Kanai hatches a plan to blind the giant, thinking that if it can't see, it won't be able to track their movements. But before they can execute it, the giant lashes out with shocking speed, swinging its massive blade and forcing the elite S-rank hunters to scatter. Kanai is left speechless, stunned that a creature of such enormous size could move with such speed and precision. Meanwhile, a helicopter hovers overhead, broadcasting the nightmare below. Jinwoo watches the chaos unfolding in Japan on the television. The destruction is massive, and he can't help but worry that this situation might turn out just like the Jeju Island disaster. Concerned, he starts thinking about heading over to help, until a familiar voice behind him quietly says, "Don't go." Turning around, Jin sees his little sister standing there, her eyes filled with worry. She repeats her plea, asking him not to leave. Jin, slightly confused, asks what she's talking about. Jenna softly responds that she knows he's about to leave, then lowers her eyes to the floor in a heavy silence. Trying to ease her mind, Jin Woo shakes his head and stands up. He gently tells her he's not going anywhere. In fact, he's been pushing himself too hard lately, and now he plans to take some time to rest. "Don't worry," he adds with a smile, placing a comforting hand on her head. Later on, while sitting alone on a park bench, Jin Woo summons Beru. The loyal shadow ant appears, immediately addressing him as Your Majesty, before quickly correcting himself to Lord. Jin lightly scolds Beru for watching dramas instead of keeping an eye on Jin-ah, then asks how his sister is doing. Beru replies that there's been nothing unusual in her behavior. Still, Jin Woo isn't convinced. He begins to wonder if she's suffering from some hidden trauma. After all, she's never tried to stop him from leaving before, except for his very first raid 4 years ago. "What should I do?" Jin asks himself as he walks down the sidewalk, his thoughts clouded with concern. Just then, a vehicle rolls up beside him. He's escorted to an office where he immediately questions the reason for his summons. There, he meets Jinho's father, who calmly introduces himself and slides a check across the table. Jinho's father is quick to point out that he's not someone who believes money can solve everything, especially not when dealing with an S-rank hunter. Instead, he asks Jin Woo to view it as a sign of goodwill. Realizing the seriousness of the conversation, Jin Woo suspects that what's coming next is highly confidential. He cuts to the chase and asks what exactly he is trying to purchase. That's when Jinho's father reveals something deeply personal. He's battling the same illness that once plagued Jin Woo's mother. The revelation catches Jin Woo off guard, and he immediately asks if Jinho knows about it. The old man explains that aside from his doctor, only 3 people are aware of his condition: himself, his wife, and his secretary. "So now it's 4, Jin Woo remarks, to which he quietly agrees. As the discussion continues, Jin-ho's father explains that in his search for a cure, he discovered only one known case of recovery, Jin Woo's mother. He doesn't believe this is a mere coincidence. Faced with this emotional request, Jin Woo feels the pressure of the moment. A critical decision lies ahead, and he kept feeling that he's being forced into a decision. A helicopter soars above a city consumed by fire, capturing the devastation below. Inside, reporters watch in disbelief as towering giants rampage through the streets, crushing buildings and uprooting trees as if trying to erase every sign of life. Worst of all, the monsters are devouring people. "What about us?" the cameraman asks anxiously. His colleague tries to stay calm, assuring him they should be safe as long as they maintain their distance. Based on current data, the largest giant hasn't left the gate. It just stands there while the others spread across the city. The reporter speculates that it might be guarding the gate or waiting for someone. The cameraman, however, points out that it doesn't seem alive. Despite its movements and breathing, it behaves more like a machine following programmed instructions. The reporter disagrees, arguing that if it were mechanical, the military's attacks would have worked. But even after 2 days, only 2 out of 30 giants have been destroyed. "I wonder if they can stop this before the entire planet is wiped out," he mutters grimly. Elsewhere, at the Ajin Guild office, Jin-ho is visibly shaken. He can't believe Jin Woo is seriously considering going to Japan. Jin-ho urges him to watch the news, reminding him that the monsters appearing now are far beyond what they faced on Jeju Island. These are something else entirely. The guildmaster responds calmly, explaining that if Jin Woo succeeds, the Ajin Guild's name will become known worldwide. Jin Woo takes a moment to process everything. Even Jin-ho, usually bold and eager, is genuinely worried this time. Then suddenly Jin-ho shouts, "All right then, I'm going too." Jin Woo turns in surprise. Jin-ho goes on to say that he's noticed something strange. All the recent reports on major gate events don't mention him at all. Holding back tears, he says the only thing he can truly take pride in is being by Jin Woo's side. Jin Woo is caught off guard. He didn't expect such honesty from the son of a millionaire. Jin-ho insists he wants to follow Jin Woo no matter what, and begs to be taken along. Jin Woo reminds him that he was just against the idea and questions whether he even remembers where Jin said he was headed. Jin-ho replies with full trust, saying that as long as Jin Woo is safe, he'll be safe too. With a grin, Jin Woo turns away and reveals he was only joking about going to Japan. He tells Jin-ho to go home. He's starting to look like a sad puppy. As Jin Woo walks through the city streets, he reflects on his weakened state. Without his shadow soldiers, he feels vulnerable. He recalls the architect he once fought, an enemy equal in strength, and realizes that even more powerful foes likely exist. When he gets home, he greets his mother warmly and quietly considers scrapping the idea of traveling to Japan.